Hello, I'm Harvey, host of Franchising Brand Stories.
Hi, I'm Yousif. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Heavenly Desserts.
And welcome to Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by FranRec, specialist staff and executive recruiters to the UK franchise industry. This is the show where we get under the hat of some of the top franchise brands in the UK. So if you are considering investing into a franchise business, this is a show for you. This is a show where you can go beyond the brochure, find out what the story is behind the brand, and meet the fantastic people right in the heart of these businesses. It's to help you choose a franchise that's right for you. And this is live. Well, it's live if it's 5:15 or thereabouts. So please get your questions in if you are here. And the brand story we're going to hear today is Heavenly Desserts with Yousif Aslam. Yousif, welcome to Franchising Brand Stories.
Thank you, Harvey. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be here.
Fantastic. So I'd like to start with chapter one. It's always a good place to start. For any potential franchisees watching today, Yousif, can you tell us where your business is at right now? What do you do? What is Heavenly Desserts for people who don't know? How many franchisees do you have, and whereabouts can we find you? A lot of questions I fired off there.
There's a lot of questions. It is coming up towards the end of the day, so I'm going to have a go at all of them. But if I miss any, just repeat them.
That's all right. We'll recap.
Just keep an eye on me. So, I mean, look, thanks for having me on. As I said, I'm from Heavenly Desserts. We are a dessert restaurant operator. For want of a better word. We're also obviously a franchise business. We now currently in our journey, we're circa 60 restaurants in the UK. Anything as far north as so we're located anywhere as far as from Aberdeen all the way down south to the coastal areas of Brighton, Southampton, and almost in every major city and town in between, bar a fair few too. But if you mention any major city or a town, it's quite likely that we are trading there. We landed in Canada around about 18 months ago under a franchise model. So that was our first international territory, which has been a very exciting journey for us. So we're currently trading with one franchise operation there. We've got a second location which is currently in build at the moment. So we're hoping for a launch at some point in autumn, followed by a growth pipeline of a further 10 to 12 new restaurants in the Canadian market between now and the end of 2025. So that's where we're currently at in a short summary.
Wow. I mean, that's a fantastic introduction, and thank you for that. If you have just joined us, this is Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by FranRec, and they are the UK specialist for executive staff within the franchise industry. And today we are talking to Yousif from Heavenly Desserts. And we're just about to get into the main part of today's show, which is chapter 2. And this is really where we get into the real story of Heavenly Desserts. And this is the part where we would really encourage you to ask your questions if you're here, and get involved. And it's fantastic when you are here. As I say, if you are looking at investing into a business, this is where you're going to really understand the brand that you're investing in, and it's such an important decision. So it's really important to do that. We have a couple of people here already, so we will put those up on the screen. And while we're doing that, we are going to now get into chapter 2, the main part of the story here. And Yousif, if it's okay, I want to take you back in time now. So, you've spoken here of a fantastic business, and it always makes me hungry, by the way, but a fantastic business of 60 sites, international expansion. But where did it all begin for you? And where did the story of Heavenly Desserts start?
Way back in 2008 is when the business was founded. And often when I think back to that particular period in time, it feels like it was a different world. And actually, if we look back now, it really was a different world. And what do I mean when I say that? So, I mean, as an example, TikTok and Instagram, which are probably two of the most well-used social media marketing platforms, didn't even exist when we were founded. So if so that's why when I say it felt like it feels like it was a different time and a different world, it really was. So it was also a time when we were kind of still feeling the impact of the then credit crunch or the recession, which again, it was the characteristics of that recession versus the one that we've just kind of come out of or are still in were very different. So that's when we were founded. We spent a couple of years. So we were founded in Birmingham, in the Midlands. We then spent a number of years trading in Birmingham before we then branched out into our second site, which was in the city of Derby, which is where our head office is now based as well. And between sort of 2008 and 2016 is when we saw steady and organic growth. So at this point, we were, not franchising. The first site was corporate owned, as were the ones that followed. So we opened in Derby, followed by another one in Leicester in 2013, and then we had a bit of a break because by this time we had a handful of restaurants trading, managing multiple sites. Wasn't a challenge, but it was new to us. So getting the consistency correct in operations, in service, in the food quality, etc., was a journey in itself. So we then went on and opened our final corporate restaurant in Nottingham, again in the Midlands, in 2016, and by the time 2016 came around, the dessert cafe, parlor, restaurant, whatever terminology you want to put to it, started to see some traction. Because when we originally were founded, the concept of a venue that had a menu just dedicated to desserts, open 7 days a week, pretty much 365 days a year, didn't exist, right? Which is probably why in our earlier years, it took a period of time to really get some traction going, because it was a concept that was unheard of, especially then. So typically, if during that period in time, if customers went out for dinner or lunch, it was quite common for them to have all three courses at that one particular venue, right? But of course, that we now live in a very different world, and now going for dinner in a particular food venue and then going to another venue for desserts after is very much a trend and part of the culture now. But yeah, 2016, we were finding that there was a number of competitors starting to creep up, whether it was in and around our locality or around the country. And it was really that moment in time when we realized a couple of things. One, that we'd built up a respectable reputation within the little territory of the Midlands that we were trading in, but also the fact that we'd crafted and created a profitable business model. And really then it was the point in time when we decided, okay, we decided that we had an ambition to grow the brand. And then it was very much a point in time where we were deciding, okay, are we going to continue expanding via corporate sites? Or actually, are we going to go down the route of franchising? And that was actually an interesting period, because there were lots of internal debates going on. The idea of franchising felt daunting at that particular time, because at that time, when you're a brand owner, your main concern is, right, I've spent all of this time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears building a successful business, and now I'm potentially going to put it into the hands of other operators to grow it. And that at the beginning can seem quite daunting.
Yeah.
But then we realized that if we were going to go towards the direction of corporate growth, that would have been a lot more slower, because it would have been dependent upon us, raising and investing our own capital. But not only it would have been slower, but there would have been a higher risk because of all our own capital at stake. So
Sure.
lo and behold, after lots of deliberation, we landed on the idea that, look, some of the best brands, whether that be it in the F&B space or retail or automotive industry or whatever, some of the best brands in the world were operated as franchises. And then that's when we made the commitment that actually, if we do it right, and we don't take cut corners, and we build our franchise model and our business with the correct foundations, it will be a success. And then that's the journey that we started with. So we made the firm commitment in 2016. By this time, we were actually already, Harvey, getting organic inquiries, right, from members of the public who had interacted with the brand as customers. So we were already getting organic inquiries, knocks on the door. Hey, are you franchising? Would you consider franchising? So that was also kind of a bit of a light bulb moment as well. That period. So lo and behold, made the decision in 2016. Onboarded our first set of franchisees, and went to market in 2017, which is where we opened our first set of franchise sites. So we opened in Liverpool, Oxford, and Northampton. So in 2017, these were the 3 new sites we added onto the estate, and they were our first set of franchisees. And since then, it's been an incredible journey.
That's brilliant. I mean, what stuck out for me there about your journey is, having spent quite a lot of time organically growing the business, developing the business yourself, like you said, that was through establishing desserts, the concept into the market. But that also gave you a great amount of time to really understand what the business is about, and to make sure that you've ironed stuff out. And I love hearing why you chose franchising as well. It was a successful thing to do, and you're getting to share that success with some fantastic business partners.
Sorry, Harvey, I just wanted to comment on that and add to that, because you make a very important point. So once we started franchising, a number of times along the way, we've reflected upon the fact that, did we join the franchising industry too late? Right? Because we were like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years in before we started franchising. And actually, upon reflection, what we say to ourselves here at the office is, no, actually, the moment in time that we franchised couldn't have been any better, because what it meant was we had so much time and skin in the game, trading in a number of different locations with a number of different characteristics to each other. And what we didn't realize was that what that really did for us, it really primed us to be in pole position to then, moving forward, actually provide advice and guidance to our franchisees. Because lo and behold, when we started franchising, I mean, there's probably never been a scenario that where any of our franchise partners have come across an operational challenge within their business that we haven't had the answer for. And that's because just the sheer time that we've had, in terms of, in the game in itself. Because quite often what you find is, you have a business model that launches and very quickly goes into franchising, and that's also okay. But what the disadvantage there is, they just don't have enough time in the industry.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic point, and it's really important when you're watching this, and that you understand that you spent that much time because you came across challenges, and you came across those challenges, overcame them, and can advise. Let's turn to our wonderful audience, and let's take a question here. And we're going to take a question here from Simon, first of all. I like this question. I think it's really important when you're looking at this as a prospective franchisee, as someone who's looking to invest into this market, into this business, and you're thinking to yourself, who do I need to be? What sort of experience, what skills do I need? And that's exactly what Simon's asked here. So what skills and experience do franchisees need to succeed in your business?
Really good question. That is from Simon. So look, from an experience perspective, the answer is zero, right? And the reason I say that is, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons why, those investing into business, whether it's first time or second or third time, it's exactly the reason why they buy a franchise, because it's a proven business model. Okay, it's got a proven track record, but it also comes with the training and the advice and the ongoing guidance, which of course you'll just never get if you are going to set up your own independent business. So having said that, actually from an experience perspective, when it comes to our brand, it's not essential. Is it advantageous? Absolutely, it always will be, because it just allows that individual franchisees to come into the network with a better understanding of the sector or the hospitality industry as general. So from our perspective, experience doesn't matter at all. There's an argument to say that even from a skills perspective, although some skills are important, there isn't really an established set of skills that we require. I think from our perspective, it's more about attitude.
Okay.
Because I think in the world of business, attitude is the most important thing. Because if you've got the right level of attitude, or if you have the right attitude, the chances are you will look at things positively, and within the context of a franchise network, you're going to listen to the guidance of your franchisor, and effectively that's why you buy a franchise. As I said, it's a proven model, and it's got a successful track record, and you're there to follow the operations manual, the ongoing guidance, and the training and so on and so forth. So if you follow the framework to the T as advised, right, you follow the manual, right, the chances of success, including a number of other variables, are there. So look, from a skills and experience perspective, there are no essential skills that we require. For me, it's more about attitude, and perhaps being having a mindset which is adaptable, because business is never the same from year to year, from month to month, and as an individual, to succeed in business, you've got to have the right attitude, but be agile, and have the ability to adapt.
I love that. I think that that's really important, and the fact that when you think of skills and experience, and you start changing that to something like attitude, values, a mindset. You mentioned the word mindset there. I love that as well, because skills, you've already got, like you said, you've got a proven model. You can teach people how to operate a model, but you can't teach someone their values. You can't teach someone their mindset, their attitude.
You can't train any of them.
No, you can't. I mean, it's an interesting thing. How do you spot that? You've mentioned there an adaptable mindset, which is a great thing, because you've got to be flexible. What other sort of characters or values do you feel are important? Let's forget skills and experience here, but let's look at some other values and sort of mindsets. How would you classify some of the other things you look for?
You know what it is, Harvey? In my experience, when it comes to trying to extrapolate this from a prospective franchise partner through meetings and coffee chats and discovery day webinars, etc., it's very much like when you're recruiting for a member of staff in your business. You can have the most robust recruitment process, asking all the right questions, but ultimately you're never just going to know until the person is onboarded. I think for us, when we're talking to prospective franchise partners, it's really trying to get a deep dive into them as an individual, the experience, some of the life experiences that they may have had, and really understanding their journey up until that point in time where they're sat in front of us talking about taking a franchise. And look, them conversations, there is no one set rule book that you apply to every single individual. It's about looking at the individual, their profile, understanding their background, what they've done in the world of work already, interrogating is probably not the most appropriate word to use, but taking a deep dive into what they've done, what they've achieved, and actually, you know, when you sit down and take a deep dive into an individual's journey, um, you know, you're able to really extrapolate, you know, where their mindset is, where their values lie, because there's got to be a display of that in some way, shape, or form in their journey, whether it's in their journey as an entrepreneur doing something else, whether it's in their journey, you know, if it's somebody much younger, it's understanding what they've done up until that point in their life. It's really trying to extrapolate, you know, some of these ideas
Yeah,
conversationally.
yeah, that absolutely. It's got to be conversational, and I love the fact that you put there about life experiences. You know, trying to understand what somebody else has been through to get them to this point where they're interested. You know, what brought them to this decision. You know, and there's going to be all sorts of different answers to that, and you know, their lives in some of those values and character traits that you're going to align with. And you know what, this is all part of it. You know, we're here together. If you're watching this in the future, you're seeing whether you align with Yousif. And Yousif is one of the founders of this business, and this is what this is partly about. So fantastic stuff, love it. Let's put a couple of things up here while we were. I'm going to put a comment up from Simon in a minute, but Mara from Italy, great to have you here. And she's put, do you think the coachability could be a necessary skill? I know you said adaptability is something that you look for in someone's mindset, and I would have thought those two things lie within the sort of same remit, don't they?
Look, yeah, they do. It's actually a really good question, because whilst you know, adaptability and coachability kind of almost sit in the same ecosystem, and there's probably, you know, a lot of crossover between the two. It's actually a very valid question, and the answer is yes, because at the end of the day, you know, you've got to be coachable, and to me, that I think that's a universal principle, not just in the context of a business or a franchise model, but even as individuals on a day-to-day basis. If we are to continually evolve, adapt, develop, work on all the areas that you know, we need to get better at, you've ultimately got to be coachable, because the opposite to being coachable is not being coachable, right? Obviously, and if you're not coachable, then what that essentially means is, in the context of a franchise model or a business, is when your franchisor is trying to coach you or provide you with support, guidance, or give you some direction on a particular business matter, your ears are going to be closed to that. You're not going to be taking that on board, and quite likely you're going to be dismissive of that. And what that then means is you're probably going to try and deal with a challenge or a problem in your own way, which may not always be the right way to do it. So absolutely, coachability and being coachable is a fundamental principle that has to be present. And even within our head office, this is something, you know, we talk about quite often, you know, amongst all of our team, which is, look, you know, everybody, and including myself, I try to have a daily mindset of being coachable myself, because although me and my co-MD Imran, who looks after another side of the business, we're still learning on a daily basis. You know, we've been around since 2008. We've been a franchisor for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, or however long it's been. We're still learning, and developing. So yeah, coachability, absolutely, it's a fundamental principle that needs to be present.
Perfect. No, thank you, Maura, for that question. And I love that, you know, having that attitude and having that mindset of always learning as a franchisor as well is a wonderful thing to have. And as an entrepreneur, if you're listening to this as an entrepreneur looking to invest in a franchise business, some entrepreneurs want to do what they want to do, but you definitely get some entrepreneurs that value other people around them, value listening to people who've been through things before. When you're buying into a franchise, you're buying time. It took you 8 years to gain the knowledge that you have. Someone else could do it, and it could take them 8 years if they could get through all of the hurdles that you got through during that period of time. But you've gone through that and you're offering them the learnings from it. And you've got that open mindset to continually learn as well. And I love that. I'd like to take this question because I think it's really important when you're a franchisee and you're trying to think about what will my day look like? What will this look like as I get into this franchise? So this question from Simon, what does the franchise prospect journey look like? What can they expect? So from the point they make an inquiry, someone's watching this and they think, I really align with what Yousif's saying here. I want to make a call and find out what this is about. What do they go through from making that call to opening a delicious dessert shop?
Perfect. Yeah, brilliant. So typically how the journey looks is we'll receive the inquiry, which is usually always online. And we aim to respond within 24 hours because we believe that's really important. So typically a prospect can expect a response within 24 hours via email by one of the team. And that response effectively looks like, of course, acknowledgement and thanking them for their interest, because that's important to us as well. We usually attach our franchise brochure, which gives the prospective reader a really good insight as to into the brand, the history, the journey, where we're at right now, what kind of support is on offer as a prospective franchisee, what we do with marketing, about the investment and the cost, the capital that they may need.
Sure.
So the brochure is designed to give them as much early information as possible to answer as many early questions that they may have. As part of that response, what we do is we invite them onto our monthly, what we call as a discovery day, which is essentially a webinar. So we hold that at the end of the last Wednesday of every month, and we've been doing that since we franchised the business. The difference being, prior to the pandemic, that was held in a physical setting at one of our restaurants. But since the pandemic, we've just found that an online webinar just works well better. So there's an invitation to the webinar, and the webinar is usually around about 90 minutes, whereby I'm on that myself as one of the directors. So I normally do the intro, give an intro into the brand, and then we have heads of our key business functions on that particular webinar. So marketing, operations, development, and again, the idea is really to give the prospect a real deep dive insight into what they can expect from anything, as I said, from marketing. So pre and post marketing support, an insight as to what the training is going to look like, what before they open, the guidance after they open, and how we support them along the way. So effectively, we offer a turnkey solution from when they come on board. So when a prospective franchisee comes on board, we will take the journey from right at the beginning, which starts with site search, site evaluation, securing the lease for them, negotiating with the landlords, the interior design, build, construction, training, all the way up until the restaurant is ready to open and trade. So we take care and literally handhold through all of that particular journey. But the journey begins when the doors open.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And of course, as part of the webinar, we give a detailed insight into that. So the webinar is usually about 90 minutes. And of course, at the end there's a Q&A, and usually there are not a lot of questions because it's actually quite in depth. But of course, we do get questions which we take. Once that webinar ends, we reach out to everybody that's been on it with an application form, and we encourage anybody who's interested in taking the conversation further is simply to complete the application form, send it back into us, and then generally we will have a series of one-to-one meetings, really get into the deep dive of their situation, look at the capital available, what funding options they're interested in, talk about location, locality, and really get into the nitty-gritty. And there's a bit of a process there before both sides go away, make a decision as to whether this is a partnership that both sides want to enter. And if the answer to that question is yes, then there is a formal agreement which is executed, and the site search begins.
Fantastic. I mean, that's great. I mean, what sort of timescale are you looking at from sort of inquiry, if it goes right the way through to opening a store? You know, we're talking sort of weeks, months.
So I mean, if I look back at the journey so far, if I was to put an average time span on it, I'm talking about 9 months.
Sure. Yeah.
However, having said that, we've had a franchise partner come on board, and I've been up and running in 6 months. And
Yeah.
equally, we've had partners come on board who, it's taken us 12 to 15 months to get them up and running. And really, the variable there is just availability of the right type of location in that locality. So
Mm.
that's the only real variable that determines the length of time.
Absolutely. You've got to get it right. And it's different. It's a different amount of time for different people for different reasons. And it's good that you're adaptable and that you work with people to make sure it fits with their time. If you have just joined us, this is Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by FranRec, specialist staff and executive recruiters to the UK franchise industry. And today we're talking to Yousif from Heavenly Desserts. And it's been a fantastic conversation. If you scan the QR code that is on the screen now, it will take you to a replay of this conversation. And therefore you can come back and watch the beginning of this if you have just joined us. So I'm going to put that up now. A question that I wanted to ask you, Yousif. If I'm a prospective franchisee and I want to imagine what my day is like, so I've gone through this fantastic journey, I've worked with you, I've got to know you, and you're the brand for me, and I've opened my doors, and it's a typical day in my business. What does that look like for a franchisee?
It can vary. It is very much dependent on how the franchise partner in question has decided to operate their business. We have a number of scenarios. Most of them are common. Scenario number one is, a franchise partner has decided that from the offset they're going to be hands off, and whilst they've been through the training, they're going to employ a manager who's going to run and operate their business. Scenario number two is franchise partner decides, no, I'm going to be hands on, and I'm going to operate and manage the business myself. So it really varies. I'll focus on the latter, which is I was going to say it's probably the most common, but again, it varies. So if there's a franchise partner who intends to operate it themselves, look, like any entrepreneur, it's about wearing. You will be wearing a number of different hats.
Oh, I approve of that.
And you'll probably know all about that because you're wearing a hat now. So, and every day will vary, right? So it really just depends on the role they decide to play. Ultimately, if you're going to operate your business yourself, you will always be in a management capacity. So you could expect to be dealing with staff on a daily basis. You can be dealing with supply chain. You can be expected to be placing orders with the supply chain. Liaising with head office. All of our franchise partners, depending on regionally, have an assigned area manager who is basically there at the end of the phone call to provide support and guidance in whatever matters necessary. So yeah, it's hard for me to say what every day looks like because it's varied. But typically, you will be spending your days liaising with staffing matters, of course, serving guests because that's what the business is about. And in between doing that, also planning and looking at how you can grow your business in line with the tools and the frameworks that we provide. So it's a real arena for development. I believe that the developmental journey for a franchise partner really begins when they open the doors, because they're now starting to, especially if they've got no experience in doing this, they're now learning how to deal with employees and taking care of employee needs, because that's one of the most important aspects of this business, right? We've all heard the saying, you take care of your employees, they will take care of your guests. That's a true statement. So, anything to do with, by the end of it, they end up becoming HR experts. because you've got to know what you're doing. And like I said, between that, ensuring that guest service metrics are being met, guests are leaving happy, because happy guests turns into more happy guests. And yeah, so it varies, but is it exciting? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. But that's where development happens.
Fantastic. I love that. And I particularly like the fact that you've got this great care of your employees, the people that work around you, because really, if you look after the people that work with you, you bring them up, you understand what their needs and requirements are. They're looking after your business for you. And it's fantastic to hear that that's such an important part of it. And development as well. I mean, we've got a question, actually, I think I'm going to bring up, because development in various different ways, that can mean growing that business. You said there that you've got perhaps a little bit of time to work on your business as well. You've got this system, maybe you've got a manager in there as well, and you've got the time to think about how you can develop that franchise business. Whereas if you'd grown your own business, you just don't have the headspace or the time. I'm going to bring up a question here by Stephen Hopper. Hi guys, sorry I've just joined late. Steve, CEO of Plain Burrito, big fan, Yousif. Are you looking only for multi-unit franchisees, or are you offering single unit? I wanted to bring that up because it's interesting to hear your thoughts on people that just want one unit, or people that have got aspirations to grow. What's your sort of take, and what type of franchisees are you generally having in your network?
So I want to begin by saying hello to Stephen, and telling him that I'm also a big fan, and I'm keenly observing his growth, and we're looking forward to all the exciting things that Plan Burrito do in the space and the world of burritos. But coming back to the question, so it's both, and I believe there's no right or wrong answer to this. I know various different franchise models who prioritize one over the other. But if I reflect upon our journey, our methodology with this has been, look, okay, fine, whoever comes through the door, providing that we're able to understand that they are the right type of partner. If they want a single unit, fine. If they want to begin with a multi-unit agreement, that's also fine. Because if we were to go back and change that method, if we were to go back in time, we wouldn't change that methodology, because what's happened and what we have found is we've always, and we still try to do this, we've always tried to lower as many barriers to entry as possible, right? Because let's face it, some prospective franchise partners don't have the capital to commit to a multi-unit agreement, right? But they have the capital the capital and the appetite to commit to one, but do it really well. And like I said, if I reflect back upon our journey, we've got numerous franchise partners that came on board as a single unit franchisee, right? They then went on to open the second or third, or even potentially in some scenarios, we've had them, turn into a multi-unit one effectively, whether that's through acquiring, internal units, or just deciding after one that actually I want to secure a number of different units. So, I mean, I can only reflect upon my journey. My advice to any franchisor is keep barrier to entry low. And for us, that means considering both. Ultimately, it's up to any franchisor.
You're flexible. You're flexible on this. You're adaptable, and that's fantastic to hear. It's been a fantastic conversation. I'm really enjoying it, and I know anyone who is looking at investing in a business and looking at your business is going to be enjoying this conversation, because they're getting really to hear your thoughts on the business, and it's so important how you align with the business. So I love it. I'm going to ask you a question about the type of people that you get into your business. Are they? Do you have a wide mixture of backgrounds and people coming from different industries and different experiences, different passions? or is there a more typical type of individual that tends to become a franchisee?
Not at all. It's been really diverse. Really diverse. And when I say diverse, we've got franchise partners who come from an F&B background. We've got franchise partners who have been in the pharmacy trade before, or the pharmacy industry rather, to people from the banking sector. A number of our partners are from general white collar industry. So be that tech, project management, accountancy, or some level of small kind of online trading. So yeah, we've been really fortunate that a lot of our partners come from a very, very diverse background.
Fantastic. A question that I've got is, you've had a really good experience here, many years in this industry, and many years introducing lots of wonderful new franchisees into your business. You must have met some real characters and seen some real life-changing stories, because I believe franchising does change people's lives for the better. I'm sure there are many, but are there any characters or stories, thinking back, that really stick out of somebody really changing their life, getting involved in franchising and your business?
Yeah, multiple. You certainly meet characters within the franchise industry, but I believe that everyone can learn from everyone, and we've certainly learned a lot from a lot of our franchise partners over the years. Yeah, 100%. If I look back at, we've got multiple examples of some really life-changing stories. We've got a particular set of franchise partners who came from the F&B industry, so they were involved in pizza operations. And what I mean when I say pizza operations was, as a family, they would work as a management team for franchisees of some of the larger pizza brands out there. Papa John's is a great example. So they spent a lot of time working for franchisee groups, operating their stores, etc. They came to a point in life where they decided, actually we've now got enough experience in the F&B industry, and we actually want to do something for ourselves. Lo and behold, they make an inquiry. We meet around the table. We shake hands, then move forward. And this is actually another great example of resilience and tenacity as well, because when they came on board, and whilst their location was in Shopfit, the pandemic struck, but they remained resilient, right? And I remember this very clearly, because there were a handful of locations. In fact, there were 2 locations that we opened on the first day back after the first lockdown, and I remember it was the 1st of July. So this particular family opened their restaurant on the 1st of July, first day after the COVID restrictions were lifted, worked really, really hard, turned it into a real success story. And again, another example of a single unit turning into a multi-site. So they worked their socks off day and night, really put the hard work in, had the right attitude, then went on to sign a multi-unit agreement with us off the back of that. And today they operate 3 stores around the country, very, very successfully.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I put up Julie's comment here, actually, which was a conversation we were having earlier, but she mentions the word tenacity and the word passion, and clearly those 2 things sit high in the values that you look for. You need that work ethic. You need to work hard in a franchise business. You're given a model, you're given lots of support, but you still have to work hard. Would you agree with that as a statement in a franchise business?
There's absolutely no substitute for hard work, Harvey. And I agree with Julie. She makes a great comment. Passion and tenacity and resilience and adaptability and attitude. These are all key components which you can't teach anybody, you can't train them, and as an individual, you have to have some level of DNA instilled within you already, to be able to rely upon and build upon. And look, let's face it, I'm not as tenacious. Sorry, I wasn't as tenacious as I am now 7 years ago, but I've been on a journey to become, tenacious and passionate and resilient, and that is the same for everybody, right? So you can't train these core ingredients, as I call them. They've got to be present within an individual. And then what really happens is, as you become challenged within your business life, these just grow. And they then just simply help you carry the weight of growing a successful business, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's food or non-food.
I love that, because I was going to talk about challenges, but what you've just said there is really interesting, because what you've said, if people have the right values, the right attitudes, those things instilled in them, when the challenges hit them, what I love what you said is that those values grow. You get a challenge, you get a difficult situation, and your tenacity kicks in. It becomes even greater. Your determination. And I think particularly when you've overcome a challenge together, as a franchisor and a franchisee, and you've overcome that challenge, it gives you a buzz. It gives you more determination to continue. You feel like you've got over that together. It's really important.
100%. I talked about this the other day on my social media. And I often talk, in fact, I was on the phone to our national operations manager this morning, talking about a few challenges that we've got going on operationally, because that is the nature of operations. And what I was saying to him is that development takes place when you're outside of your comfort zone. No development and no growth takes place from within the confines of a comfort zone. I've learned that over the years. Being a franchisee, a business owner, a franchisor, etc. And it's a universal principle. I often refer to universal principles. And you take that statement and bring it into the context of a franchise business. It's the same. So let's apply that to the journey that some of our franchise partners have had. Alongside us as a franchisor, we all had to remain resilient, tenacious, and passionate during the pandemic.
Yeah,
to keep business moving forward. So these, like I said, these are fundamental principles, and ultimately you've got to be you've got to understand that you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable at certain parts of your journey, because that's where you're just going to grow and you're just going to get better and implement the learnings that just come with the journey. There are some learnings you just can't get from a textbook.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. You just have to go through it. You really do. And I love what you said there about that success. That resilience rarely comes from a place of comfort. It doesn't. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to keep adapting, keep learning. I love that. I love that. It's been fantastic. Well, we have come to the end of chapter 2, and it's been a fantastic story. Thank you so much, Yousif. If you have just joined us, this is Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by FranRec. And they are a specialist staff and executive recruiter for the UK franchise industry. And today we have heard the story behind Heavenly Desserts. It's been a fantastic one. Please catch the replay. So we are now moving on to chapter 3. Now, chapter 3 is where we're going to find out what's happening in the future. This is the time for the Franchising Brand Stories exclusive, Yousif. Okay. So perhaps you could take a little bit of time to let people know what exciting things are coming up for Heavenly Desserts in the coming weeks and months.
The first question is, where do I start? And the second question is, how much can I tell you and not give away more than I need to at this stage? But I'll give you some insight. I mean, look, we've had an incredible journey. It's been full of its challenges, as it does, with the pandemic and with Brexit and you name it, right? But we're forging ahead. We've got two main objectives. Our overarching mission within this business is that we want to become the best dessert brand to work in, to dine in, and to invest in, right? And that is our business mission, and that's what we work towards when we all come in here on a daily basis. And you'll note that there's 3 fundamental stakeholders within that statement. right? There's to work in, which is our workforce, all the way from head office all the way down to restaurant floor level. Our guests to dine in, and then our franchise partners to invest in. So these are very large buckets, and given where we're at now and where we want to go in order to achieve that mission, is we're focusing on UK growth. So whilst we're anywhere between Aberdeen and Brighton, there are still swathes of territories which we have available. Lots of opportunities in London. We're only 7 or 8 locations in London at the moment, with more to come. The coastal areas, are a great opportunity, and even within the north and the Midlands of the country, there are still some really key territories and locations that we've got available. So over the next 5 years, it really is to press ahead with that growth. We've got a target to reach 75 trading locations globally by the end of next year. We're very much on track to hit that target, and then the year after that, it's to hit 100 sites globally. So UK growth is continuing. We're now looking to and really excited to develop our Canadian territory. We've got a plan for that to spill over in the States, which is the big prize. And we've very much got many irons in the fire and works in progress to ensure that we're able to spill over into the States. And we've got a number of conversations going on there. We launched the first location in South Asia, in Pakistan, in a number of months' time. That's a project that's been ongoing for quite some time, but now we're ready and close to opening that. We're on the ground looking for sites in Germany. We've got a fantastic franchise partner there to really grow that side of Europe, and more. And look, we're interested in talking to the right franchise partners in the Middle East, which is a fantastic market. We've got some conversations happening at the moment, but ultimately there are still opportunities available. So really, it is to take what we've done. So the future for us really is to take what we've done in the UK and replicate that globally. Because, and I often talk about this, that if we look at various sectors within F&B, so if we look at the burger space, the pizza space, the coffee space, there are some globally recognized giants in that space, legacy brands that have been around for 50, 60 years or more. When we look at our space, i.e., the dessert cafe restaurant space, it's a fairly new phenomena globally. It's an industry that's in its adolescence still. I mean, despite the fact that we've been around for 16 odd years or whatever it's been, globally it's still a very, very new market. And as a result of that, there actually isn't any globally recognized dessert restaurant operator. You've got the likes of Haagen-Dazs, who are predominantly a retail product, and have got cafes dotted around the world. But actually, as a dessert restaurant operator, there isn't a globally recognized brand.
Not yet, hey? Not yet.
Not yet.
That's fantastic. Sounds really exciting what's coming up in the future. Expansion and support here in the UK, and some really exciting things all the way around the world as well. I've put a QR code up on the screen right now that will take people to the franchising section of your website, Yousif. And before we finish up today, if you'd just like to leave people with your final thoughts after today's episode, and then I will talk about who's on next week.
Thank you, but I'll answer with a question. Any particular area that you want me to focus on, because that's quite a broad question, and it's important for me to deliver the value for the listeners here. So, is there anything in particular from a final thought perspective that you want me to focus on?
I think it's just a message to the people that are interested in your business. They've heard your story. It's been a fantastic story, and I think really, I suppose, if listen to what has been said today, understand what those values are, and reach out, and you'll get to meet Yousif as well. So Yousif, thank you so much for your for your valuable time today. I'd like to thank everyone who's been here live, everybody who's going to look at this in the future. It's a very important part of your decision-making process to understand the people behind the brand. So thank you for joining us now, and thank you for joining us in the future as well. So next week on the Franchise Show, Tuesday, 24th of September, we are going to be discussing franchise competition with Amrit from Wolfinch. So that's going to be a good one. And please join us next Thursday for Franchising Brand Stories, when we're going to find out what's under the hat of We Love Pets with Ryan White. So I hope you can join us next week for another fascinating brand story. And until next time, take very good care. Cheerio.
Thank you for having me.